I'm going to introduce the next storyteller. His name is Oscar Mendez Rosa, and his story is called A Love That Does Not Wait. Welcome.
Friends, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's amazing to hear the other stories, and I think the story I'm going to tell about love is match all the stories. But this is not the love that have something to do with romantic. You know, it's a kind of different love. And one of the things I would like to begin with a piece of a poem. It's a beautiful poem. It's a Spanish poem. It's been translated also in English, and it says that there is not a real love story that has a happy ending. If it is love, it will have no end. And if it has an end, it will not be happy. My story, my personal story, is a love story. It's a story about the independent investigation of the truth. It's a story about finding principles, beliefs in my own religion. This story started many years ago, and I'm coming from Latin America. My father is Spanish, my mom is Mayan Indian, and I'm coming from a family of 11. From up to down, I am number 7. And I grew up with a Catholic family. I grew up with traditions, normal tradition, normal Catholic family. And at the age of 16, to be exact, was the 11th of November of 1985. I was standing in the street in the neighborhood I was living. A lady approached me, greeted me, and asked me a very direct question. Have you ever heard about the Baha'i religion? She asked me. And I had no idea. I need to go back, just to give you a background idea. My father was a very intellectual man who really loved books and loved study. At the age of 4 years old, I started to read by myself. And my mom told me that. I don't remember, but she said before you became 4, you started to read. Funny enough, my son, my oldest son, Milan, also he started to read before he became 4. And nobody told him, he just started to read. And when I was 8, I was imitating my father. I was reading a lot of books. And then my father said to me, I will buy books for your age. But before becoming 14, I had finished all the books my father had at home. All of them, they were classic European literature, philosophy, and the books of the major world religions. I have seen the Cenafestas, the Tripitakas, the Torah, the Quran, the Gitas, and the Bible. And I never realized that it was something very unique. But to me, it was normal when I was reading these books. And when this lady this evening, Mahbouba Shahidi, asked me, have you ever heard about the Baha'i faith? I thought that I knew a lot until this very moment. Then my question was, no, I didn't hear about it. Please, can you tell me about it? Then we started to get in the discussion about religion. And I thought I need to tell her, to this lady, the things that I know, to convince her of to try to, show up how much I knew. And suddenly I started to argue. And out of the blue, after 20 minutes, the lady looked at me and he said, my son, have a good evening. Because she said, about religion, I don't argue, because I believe that religion is not a point of disunion, of arguments. To me, religion is about unity and peace. Have a good evening. And she left. This was my first, actually, contact with the Baha'i faith. Later on, I met some other Baha'is who were there in the street, and then I started to study the Baha'i faith. At that time, I was 16 years old, and I was part of the Catholic Church where I was living. And I was part of the youth movement, like any other youth, going to the church, doing stuff with other youth. But this evening, this specific evening of the 11th of November, 1985, is the evening that actually is connected to this date. The reason why I am here in the Netherlands is because I am a Baha'i. But it is too long story to tell you how everything brought me to here. But this is the interesting thing is that when I never thought about it, being 16 years old, that changing your religion is such a big issue. I mean, this is, the stories I've been hearing is, racial stories about gender and all this stuff are big issues. But when you come in terms of religions, I mean, you are going to a sacred place. I mean, we can talk about anything, but talking about beliefs, talking about something that is yours, you keep for yourself. And please do not talk about it. And I got this sense of, finding something that I really fell in love. And when you fell in love, you cannot plan this. You cannot plan when you fell in love. It's something that happens to you. It's something that is there or if it's not there, you cannot fake it. Love cannot be faked. And in my sense, becoming of actually accepting a new religion is something that has to do with love, not with fear, not with anger, not with because you are dissatisfied, not because you don't know, but it's a kind of relation between your heart and your brains. It's something that has to do with the consciousness of knowing and accepting this. One of the interesting principles that really I still remember how much opened my mind when I was 16 years old and I heard the whole concept of what means faith. To me, until that moment, faith was something that you wait for it, you give up when you don't know, and you just follow blindly things. But when I heard this principle that says that faith first is the conscious knowledge, and second, the practice of the good deeds, then faith become a powerful force, a very active force that has something to do with conscious knowledge, but need a translation into the practical deeds. This evening, this very evening, I remember from this moment on, I started to visit the Baha'i gatherings to know more about it, but I never tell my mom about it. And I never tell the friends of the church. But when they found out, I was walking in the street and my friends from the church, they just will walk to the other side of the street. Because they will not even look at me because I was visiting something else that they didn't know what that was. And until the neighbors, the ladies who knew my mom from the church, they told her about, your son is following something else that you don't know, and it's something weird. You need to find out what is this religion. Perhaps it's a sect, it's something dangerous, I don't know. Then my mom called me and asked me what is going on. And I remember this evening having this conversation with my mom, and I said to my mom, I am not a Baha'i yet, but I am investigating. And it's nothing dangerous. You can investigate by yourself. And she argued a lot, and she said to me, you are born Catholic, you will live as a Catholic, and you will die Catholic. So it's in the family for hundreds of years. And I said to my mom, my mom, I believe, in the things I am investigating, that a religion is a choice of my personal choice. It's not the choice of my parents. And I will not argue with you about it, but it's a choice that my soul needs to make. You are not responsible for this choice. And she said, look, 16 years old, talking like this, they wash your brains already. I said, we had this interesting discussion this evening talking about these principles. And I said to my mom, I will take this step. I will take this step. And I'm not disobedient to you. Because this is my personal choice. This is my personal thing. This is something that has to do with something with my life. What happened years later is that my mom, surely in the beginning she felt ashamed with the friends. You know, your son is a very nice guy, but he have a different religion. You know, your son is a very nice person, but he believes in something else. My mom actually, in the beginning, was feeling ashamed about the whole situation. But later on, the same neighbors, the same friends who were telling my mom to feel ashamed about it, came to ask, how did you educate your son? How did you educate your children? Why are not they getting in trouble with the police? You know, why they are not in drugs or doing all the other things that the other youth are doing? And then my mom realized later, and she said, she told me later, she said, you know, I never understood in the beginning were the principles that you were following, but your life is a reflection of these principles. And I am not an example. I am not a person that you should look at and to see, oh, how, but you know, the thing is like, at the very end, she understood that these kind of choices are individual choices. And the most interesting thing about it is that when you talk about religion with your brothers and sisters or with your parents, this is like an earthquake, a magnitude 10. You know, it's like a tsunami. It's not the regular conversations that we have. And when you get into this point, sometimes people even don't want to talk about it. Because, you know, you are talking about the basis, you are talking about the pillars of somebody's beliefs. But one of the things why I am relating this, my story, my personal story about my religion with love, is because this decision cannot be taken just by your brains. You need to fall in love in order to do this. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And just by ended up, I want to read another piece of a mystical poem that I really love so much. And it's talking about the valley of search, when somebody's searching. It says that in the valley of search, the steed of this valley is patience. Without patience, the wayfarer on this journey will reach nowhere and obtain no goal. Thank you very much.